meeting to order. And I'd like to begin by acknowledging that this meeting is taking place in the unceded traditional territory of the Yakanuki within the Tanaka Nation. We're fortunate to live, work, play, and wear ugly Christmas flags in their yard. I would request a motion to adopt the regular agenda of today's meeting. Motion to Councillor Berry, second Councillor Dumas, all in favor? Motion is carried. And secondly, I'd like a motion to adopt the minutes of the regular council meeting held on December 2nd, 2025. Councillor Holland, second Councillor Baldwin, all in favor? Motion is carried. We'll proceed then to our mayor and councillors' reports. Great job. Yeah, all right. On the 4th of December, I attended the Creston Valley Services Committee meeting. And again on the 4th, the Creston Valley Housing Corporation meeting. On the 6th of December, participated in the Christmas parade. On the 10th of December, we had a coffee talk that was not much of a talk. There was coffee and cookies, but no one participated, so.
No one came.
You scored.
That's okay.
That's not true. We got that one guy to come in.
We forced one person to come in.
Monique, you picked a good day to switch.
Yeah.
Mine will be all the death threats.
I can only assume it was because of our citizen satisfaction survey. Everyone was so satisfied they didn't need to come.
I think locking the door helped.
Yeah, we should unlock the door. On the 11th of December, I attended the RDCK board meeting, and of significance was that we were able to release the press release that the RDCK has purchased a piece of land along the Goat River, which will give access to a great deal of swimming and fun along the Goat Rivers. The intent is, of course, to establish an RDCK park along the Lower Goat, and this is one of the key steps along the way. It's huge. On the 15th, I attended the CPKC holiday train, and most of the community was there by the way.
Yeah, great, busy.
And the show was spectacular. Everybody really had a great time there. It was wonderful. And then that afternoon, I also attended the Regional Accessibility Advisory Committee meeting, where we have a report that we'll go through the RDCK board for a release on accessibility, and it's a document that will also change and develop as time. So next, I see Councillor Aries.
Yeah, December 6th was the Christmas parade, and then also December 11th was Arts Council meeting.
Councillor Dumas.
December 4th, I attended the Creston Valley Housing Corporation, and December 5th, the Cemetery Select Committee meeting. I also attended December 10th, the Coffee Talk, and the December 15th CPKC holiday train. And I attended the RAC committee meeting this week as well. Busy bees.
Councillor Eisler.
December 9th, Creston Valley Community Housing Society, where they were talking about their intent to take over management of Eric's Golden Manor. So that was a good meeting with the members from both boards.
Councillor Hutton.
So on December 5th, I attended the Cemetery Select Committee meeting, the Santa Claus Parade on December 6th, the East Resource Recovery Committee meeting on December 8th. That was our budget planning meeting for the east side, and so that will all get amalgamated and then be brought forward to the board for approval. The Emergency Management Planning Committee meeting took place on December 9th. On December 10th, attended the Joint Resource Recovery Committee meeting. And couldn't be fully there for the parade or the train yesterday, but got to dance and sing to a few of my good old favorite songs of the American ladies.
Councillor Holland.
Yeah, December 4th, I was at the Public Art Working Committee, figuring out all of the things that we want to do for next year. It's very exciting.
Very good thing. Very good thing.
Very good. And then we had the December 6th, the Santa Claus Parade, and also the December 10th Coffee Talk. Which I didn't write a report for it.
Councillor Baldwin.
December 6th, the
very rushed, community, Creston Community Forest float presentation, but we got it done at the last second. And the 12th would have been Kootenai East Regional Hospital District, where we discussed how much we're going over budget on stuff, and then decided to add $750,000 into bailout to support angel flights, because they have not as yet had any contract from the provincial government renewed. So they're sort of going. But we said, well, in order to keep the lights on, we've given them $150,000 every year for the next 5 years. So that was not in our forecast. That's it.
And a thank you to Marcia too for live streaming the show yesterday.
Yeah.
I think people
Was that you?
there, we appreciated that she had done that. Yeah.
There seemed to be two viewpoints.
Because I can.
She
hold
moved.
myself.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
Awesome. She does.
That was-
That other stuff.
Okay, I was gonna say, that's pretty good.
Yeah, that was great. Great, then I would, who got the motion that the verbal and written reports of council be received. Councillor Platten, second, Councillor Holland, all in favor? Motion is carried. We would then request a motion that council resolves itself into a committee of the whole. Councillor Eisler, second, Councillor Dumas, all in favor? Motion is carried. And then I don't ask for discussion on those motions because I don't anticipate discussion, but every motion should be, discussion should be requested, but I just know people aren't going to discuss those, so. So we'll get to our committee of the whole business, starting with the Town of Creston 26 Council Board Committee and Commission appointments. And we discussed this a while ago. The only request that I had when we initially discussed it was a request from Councillor Houghton to be on the Economic Action Partnership. Currently we have Councillor Aries and Councillor Eisler on that committee. So I'm not sure if anybody wants to step down or change it, and someone would have to for you to move on to it.
And that's fine. I was just
Okay.
offering up an interest if others want changes.
It's the only one that I've had any feedback on. Is there anything else anybody wanted to add to this or suggest? I think there was at least one of these that needed to be disbanded. I know for a fact that the Affordable Housing and Development Committee is really no longer a committee, and it was more or less replaced with the Creston Valley Housing Corporation, because one gave birth to the other. So I don't know if we need that committee anymore. That's the only one, when I look through this, I'm wondering if we still need to have that committee.
Actually, I guess we have, that stuff we haven't talked about, we haven't used it or found the need to have the.
In a while,
So,
if there was housing policy, which there may be again going forward, town-led housing policy, that is, it might be good to keep it as an active committee and as needed, but that said, it's, yeah, we haven't used it in probably 2 years.
so I would say we probably get to disband the committee. Well, stop, we'll deal with that to come out.
Are there community groups that are part of that committee as well?
We had input from the community on it,
Mhm.
but since.
Yes, yeah, there is some community groups that are. pretty-
Yeah.
Mhm.
Sure.
Yes.
But it's not represented all or intended to have.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Councillor Baldwin.
Is there a committee or a liaison person going to be involved in the situation table? Is that so it's not, we don't need to have anybody from,
We haven't currently
Elected officials.
established that entire committee because the first,
I
we had an introductory section.
sure, no, I understand. Just thought it
I'm
might
not
be.
sure what will be recommended through the next step, so I guess we'd have to wait and see what the next steps are before we
Just
do
curious.
that, so.
And the fire master plan recommended an advisory committee that we need. Yes, to sit
Yeah.
on to.
And that, of course, has not been established yet, and that will also involve our DCK directors, so. We'll wait and see where that goes, so. With that, I guess, do we need the motion to accept it as,
Yes.
okay, as
Even though we're in.
as currently established? We want a motion to accept the 2026, committees and commissions appointments. Motion two by Councilor Holland, second by Councilor Eisler, but discussion on this one.
Are we in committee of the whole?
Yes.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, we are a committee of the whole, so we need recommendation, sorry. Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. Okay, we'll do that as a recommendation. We're good with it? We're good. All right. We'll move on to our next item on the agenda, which is Ministry of Social Development and Poverty Reduction regarding UBCM meeting on substance use, addiction, and homelessness. And again, why am I page? Yeah. This is then again just a recommendation, correct? That correspondence from the Ministry of Social Development and Poverty Reduction in response to a meeting with council at the 2026 UBCM convention involving substance use, addiction, and homelessness be received. So good with that? All right. And similar to a response from the Ministry of State for Community Safety and Integrated Services regarding RCMP resourcing and community safety challenges in Creston. And again, that correspondence be received. Good with that? Yeah.
I just have a question.
Yeah.
About the letter from Minister Young.
Mhm.
I felt like our conversation was, that there was conversation about the need to reevaluate, the formula for allotment of our CMP officers to communities, and acknowledgement that it was really old and that they were,
Mhm.
I kind of thought they said, yeah, that's something maybe we need to revisit. So I was surprised that there was nothing really more specific about numbers of officers.
Well, one of the
This size
suggestions, the
community.
main suggestion was we followed that up with Jackie, who we actually have followed it up with before. And I think probably in the new year, we will likely follow that up further because of course, we're not done with that yet. So I'm suggesting that we do pursue that further and
Based on that conversation, it's the wrong ministry.
Mhm.
He entertained our conversation, but he's, the Ministry of Public Safety and Solicitor General is where all policing matters lie. His programs are specialized programs to support policing at the local level, but not for policing itself.
And it doesn't say this in his correspondence, but I recall him verbally expressing an interest in attending any meetings that we had in relation to policing because of his background as well. So if, when we arrange his meetings, we'll probably extend an invitation to him. So we'd like to see him there actually. So we'll move to item 4, which is council direction request from the Director of Community Services regarding an encroachment request from the Creston and District Attorney.
Nice Christmas sweater.
I forgot my Christmas hat and sweater.
I was gonna bring you one and I couldn't find it. I know, just where I went.
Oh.
Pretty special too, so.
Look how sad he is.
Yeah.
Love that.
I think we should have a couple extra just for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody shows up and it's another time.
It's some kind of a boa or something,
Yeah.
something flamboyant.
So, egoist.
Nicholson. So following council's direction, on November 18th, staff completed a more in-depth analysis of the Creston District Credit Union's request for permission to encroach over the public sidewalk in front of the building by a foot and a half. It's for approximately 50 feet, totaling about 75 square feet. The encroachment would allow for development of a cantilever accessibility ramp and a roof extension that would replace the existing ramp south of the main entrance as part of the credit union's planned entrance improvements. Utility locations appeared to be manageable if approved, provided that we have ongoing communications back and forth with them. There's a water line, but looks like it would be workable. So the benefit of the proposal is that it would undoubtedly improve access to the credit union for the staff's plans. Soundtown plans certainly recommend that all the business entrances be accessible. Our downtown should really be accessible to everyone. The challenges with the proposal though can, for the most part, two things, I guess, downtown walkability and the nature of the agreement itself, which is a little bit atypical. In terms of walkability, the proposal requires reducing existing public sidewalk widths below what's recommended in town plans. And particularly the multimodal transportation plan, for the benefit of what is a single property and their clientele. The ideal sidewalk width is in a commercial area is 2-3 meters, wide enough essentially that two parties of two can walk past each other without having to go single file. With the removal of the parking meter post, the sidewalk would then be about 1.88 meters. So based on the town's plan, staff do not recommend reducing walkability in the public realm in favor of accessibility for privately owned property, even when it's the home of a valued community institution like the credit union. The second challenge is the type and terms of the agreement. It's also really important to consider. If this were titled land, a boundary adjustment would be fairly straightforward. The sale of the land, notice of disposition. You have publicly owned land, you're gonna sell it, advertise, you make that happen. As a road allowance, it introduces other complexities. So you can't just do it. You can't just transfer it. You need to do what's called raising title of the property, which is similar to a subdivision process, involving public notice, subdivision plan surveying, an opportunity for members of the public to be heard in front of council. Ultimately, adoption of a road closure bylaw, approval of the Ministry of Transportation, and referrals to utility companies. So, this is a process that would certainly take months. I know that the credit union indicated their desire to have this project completed by July. This would certainly make that timeline unworkable for now. Then encroachment agreement or license of occupation doesn't really require public notice because it doesn't create an interest in the land. It's an agreement between two owners. It's revocable, just like a license of occupation at any time. What implications that has for the credit union side of things, I'm not sure. But it is that very one-sided agreement, and certainly by allowing a permanent structure under a temporary agreement that can be revoked at any time, it would be very costly for them to undo it, and difficult for a future council to make that decision. If needed, essentially make them take the front off of their agreement and their ramp and put them into non-conformance at that time. So it could, it's not the ideal. That way, encroachment agreements are really used for those temporary, somewhat easily revocable permissions to occupy land, not really, well, they can be used for permanent uses. Certainly, not the intended use of the tool, I guess. So council chooses to support the development in its current proposed form. Staff do recommend that council direct staff to begin the steps needed to raise title for the subject area to permanently dispose of the land to the Creston District Credit Union. Due to the reduction in downtown walkability, the temporary nature of the current proposed agreement, staff recommend that council deny the Creston District Credit Union's request for encroachment agreement. That.
Councilor Eisler?
Yeah, before
Go ahead, Mike.
one of the reasons though that on the raising title though is the liability side.
That was what it
So that's really just, so it's not like that we want to do that because it create a bunch of work. In fact, that's a lot of work that nobody wants to do for like 1 foot of property. But if you don't do that, then you're forever also liable. And we're not even sure on the insurance question, whether the insurance from the bank would be able to even cover on that encroachment or any other legal agreement you put out there for that 1 foot of space.
Right.
And then the other comment that I'd like to make is before you guys debate this, is quite simply is commercial businesses have the ability to build to zero lot lines. Like they're not required to have setbacks, they're not required. And when we look at this as well, as we think that there is other opportunities for them as well. In addition to that, when we look at their front facade and their area that they have, this is one design that could work for them. I think that with that space that's there is that, you know, I think that there's other opportunities that they could explore.
Right.
Personally, that's just my personal opinion. Not qualified by any design. To be clear, but that's just my opinion. But it's about liability is why we need to do this as well. We need to sever ourselves from. Okay, sorry.
Councilor Isaac, go ahead then.
Yeah, I like the idea of it making work system. And I wonder, like, just because of where the credit union is, anything past that is going into neighborhoods, so it's generally not a high traffic area.
Yeah.
You know, I'd like for that to happen, but I understand liability stuff, so. Maybe if they do have some other options, that would be the way to go, but I don't know.
Councilor Baldwin.
And I agreed with that, except that I thought, I looked at where the parking lot is, and there's a lot of traffic coming from the parking lot, foot traffic coming in, so. I think anything that we do to introduce a liabilities that wasn't there before, and that nobody really shares or knows who is responsible for it. And it brought up for me cycling, and I guess just because we're in committee of the law, can kind of diverge from one. We don't really have any bylaws in town, as far as I know, that say you can't cycle on a sidewalk at this point, and there's certainly nothing enforced, and it's nuts. I've been run over or close to run over when I come out of the dentist's office on Richard Heights. You get the door swings out, and bicycles will go right past you. So I thought there's a place where people are going to be converging as well. And if they're riding a bike down the hill, and there's like they literally have a constricted space to work with now, that would be a big problem. So I just went, of course, we really can't go ahead with this, but all the negatives would have to put it back to them to come up with a solution that it might not have been the easy, it might not have been the low hanging fruit. We'll just extend out. They'll have to do a little bit more design work, but they can contact Mike because he knows. Anyway, I agree with it, not to approve it at this time.
Councilor Hutton.
Yeah, I think, you know, my preference is to see some sort of accessibility change happen there. I had someone from the community come to me the other day who had an unexpected fracture and realized how even as a young person who is very physically fit, how inaccessible many businesses were in town. And so I like to think that we're supporting businesses that are trying to make that happen. And I just want to clarify, if we remove parking in front of there and that took the sidewalk to 1.88 meters, it's less than our multimodal transport plan recommends, but I think in reading there, it does say that would be somewhat acceptable.
Yeah, the minimum that would be acceptable is 1.5 meters
Yeah.
in terms of bylaws, like our works and services bylaw. If you were to be doing a building or subdivision and had to put in sidewalks, you know, 1.5 would be the minimum that would be permitted to do. Our works and services bylaw
It's gonna ask.
is really, it really needs a bit of work when it comes to those specific requirements. It only lays out 2 options, whether it's commercial or residential. You're either arterial or a collector. And so it's 1.5 or 1.8 meters, regardless of separation from traffic, whether there's bike lanes beside you, parking, any of that stuff. So it's lacking the detail needed to, look at things on a case by case basis, I guess.
I just have supplemental to that. So when I went down the street to look at it, although the Legion isn't right across, that is another location of congestion of people at times when there's Legion events or whatever. And so I was just curious, you know, when we look at the downtown revitalization plan where there are bump outs, could that be something that's considered for that road, and where it maybe we slow down traffic going down that road? completely
Yeah,
and just
it
allow
absolutely could be.
movement.
And, you know, that's one of the pieces is that having the space to work with, to add in some of those improvements. You know, if we want to get this highway realigned, it, you know, if you have a continuous sidewalk and then suddenly you have a jet out, make it continuous, you're wanting to not have people go, you know, to that edge at all, so the whole thing really becomes, you know, the path of people, you want to gradually taper it, right? So it increases or decreases the width, you know, by a chunk. More on either side, to gradually phase it in, I suppose is what I'm trying to say. It hasn't been completely evaluated, you know, with the downtown revitalization plan, you know, which streets are gonna have what specific improvements. So everything's very conceptual at this point, you know, so it's, you know, could we adjust around something like that? Yes, you know, would that 1.5 foot, you know, be the deciding a feature on whether or not we can add a bike lane or something? I couldn't say one way or the other at this point.
Okay.
Or a bump.
Right.
Sure.
So when I look at the drawings, I see 3D view 3 cantilevered walkway. And what it shows there is the reality that the parking lot basically almost a level entrance on that end of the building. And I'm just wondering if they considered any alternate plans, because they would have to change an entrance, but they already have the elevation without interfering with the sidewalk. So I'm not sure if they're considering any alternate approaches to this, but it would appear to me that if we really aren't supportive of the ramp the way it is to make it more accessible, they do have some options, and I have no idea what the cost of that is, but I would hope they would consider other options to make it more accessible without encroaching on our sidewalk. So again, they probably need their designers to take a second look at this, and I'm not sure how inclined they are, but you know, I would hope they would, honestly.
But that back door kind of goes into the back
Yeah.
office.
Yeah, I know.
It doesn't flow into the.
I know how that all works. They'd have to change that to be a main entrance, whether that's more expensive or less expensive than establishing a ramp and changing that whole entrance anyhow. I have no idea. But I'm just wondering if somebody with an eye to alternatives have considered an alternative. Councilor Dumas.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hearing that we all agree that we want to support the bank and have accessibility, but being the issue of the title, it's gonna drag it, like you said, like either way, if we say no right now, then they're gonna have to go back and rework the plan, but if we say yes, go ahead and move forward, that's gonna cause another 3-4 months anyway. So either way, we're delaying them, which is unfortunate. We don't want to do that. We don't want to be a part of a business being delayed. But with the liability and the title of the land, go with what staff is recommending at this time.
I think the other thing is too, is if you think around downtown, everybody's built to 0 lot lines. There's other buildings that probably would like to put in something too that would encroach. So you're gonna start to see a bit of a, or you could.
Yep.
You could. At some point you might have to say no, I guess, but there is, if you go on the main street, there's a few buildings I can think of that if they wanted to try to take advantage of it, they could without an encroachment of sorts.
Councilor Watt.
Yeah, I appreciate what Councillor Dumas is saying, but I think my preference actually would be to give some information back to the credit union around the consequences of their ask and what it is for us, you know, around liability, potentially a land title change, and ask them to rework their plan and maybe come back to us with something that's maybe easier for us to consider than this current plan is, rather than saying no
Certainly
today.
do that if that's the, I mean, I think we would do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
You wouldn't just say nothing.
Yeah, no, unless we take no further.
That, I thought that was a little extreme.
That was the.
Yeah. Oh, we get you. Thank you.
So the recommendation is that council directs staff to take no further action at this time. And again, I don't know if you want to reword that, but
I do,
take no
yeah.
further action
Mhm.
on this particular proposal because it's one that we don't recommend.
Go back.
And give them a reason why.
I think, yeah,
Mhm.
But don't do any further investigation in terms of the legal obligations and things like that.
at this time.
Sounds good.
I've got that.
Great.
Thank you.
We're all good with that recommendation? Will?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Next then is the council direction request from Director of Finance regarding 2026 budget guidelines. So we're looking for some direction there.
Good evening, Council, Your Worship. Am I supposed to have this gavel?
Unless you need self-defense.
I'd like to hang off my sweater if I could.
Yeah, good.
Okay, thanks, and yeah, good evening. So essentially what I'm looking for today is direction from the staff, or sorry, not the staff, for the staff from council to begin preparing the 2026 budget in line with contractually obligated unfunded increases and to maintain the 2025 levels of service. So I had attached a report that kind of detailed some of the significant and currently calculatable unfunded increases to the operational budget. Some of these are inflationary increases for town staff, so exempt union, increase in WorkSafe BC rates, other changes going down the list, changes from RCMP budgets, changes to, Fortis bills for electricity and natural gas increases, the corresponding employee benefits, so on and so forth. And, then I had kind of listed it as well, and hopefully this is something that's relatively familiar to council, the reasons for changes in some of these obligated and unfunded increases such as inflation, service levels as we discussed, how essentially the staff will go about preparing the budget in line with these recommendations. So, the utilization of reserves and surpluses, achieving a balanced budget, asset management, things like that. There's also, around the discussion of service levels and best practices, there are some amounts that I've calculated for council increases or market value adjustment for exempt staff or firefighting force increase to align with, current rate of activity there. These are areas where perhaps their council might have a bit more discretion as to how they would like to fund and to what extent they would like to fund these, as opposed to increases that are kind of contractually obligated. And we've already received notice that these are what your amounts are going to be for 2026. That being said, it's my understanding that council still has the opportunity to, provide staff, or I suppose myself, more direction. Obviously that would come with a change to the service levels for 2026 and then 2025. But if that's the case, then certainly that's something that's available as well. And, I had also talked about, relevant observations and, these, I think, the process, granted, I understand that we're likely a little bit later in the year than where we might normally be, but these are guidelines to begin the process. Certainly more information will be coming back as the process, begins and continues. And I believe we already have the date set in late January for further discussion. So, these numbers will be refined and will continue to come back to you. In addition, offsetting revenues as well. These are things that I'm working with Mike and with Joel to try to figure out what those might be in terms of calculating, what offsets there might be. So yeah, essentially, if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer those to the best of my abilities. But essentially what I'm looking for is just the direction to begin building the 2026 budget with these guidelines in mind.
Councillor Baldwin.
Sorry, always ask a question. You sent out, the town sent out the monthly newsletter, and in that was a survey form, several pages worth of do you, don't you type questions on unfunded options. In other words, things, do you want to do this? Unfortunately, the survey wasn't set up with any particular deadline or any process for submitting it, but are you planning on weighting that information when you basically put the budget together? Are you going to work on the basis that we want to do all of those things, and take out the ones that people say no to or don't show any interest in? I'm just trying to figure out how that survey plays into that.
Yeah, I'm happy to elaborate on that. So maybe just a few points to clarify on that survey. The survey, I think there was a deadline. I believe it's December 19th for the feedback to be submitted. It was released by mail for drop off here and also on the Let's Talk Creston website. So I think those went out separate ways. Also, the elements that were included on those survey, those projects, those are for one-time projects. So they're separate from these, which are obligated increases to the core budget.
I understand.
But yes, certainly that information, and my understanding is this was the process in years past, that information will be collected and then distributed to council in early January. And then that's information, that's more data to potentially help your, insight and direction as to, how you might be hearing these things from the community. So to the extent that you would like to take that into your process, you will have as much data as we collect.
Councillor Hopkins.
I'm just curious, we had identified 2 positions this year that we wanted to hire into. And I'm just wanting to know, because they never happened this year, are they included in like baseline for this 2026 proposed budget?
All of the positions, my understanding is that they'll be coming to council for not one time, but they'll be coming back to council as budget sheets. So these are just, again, the obligated unfunded increases to the current maintained levels of service. And then again, you'll have the opportunity to discuss any changes to those levels of service.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Yeah, I'll read the recommendation before us that council directs staff to develop the 2026 budget inclusive of obligated unfunded increases and any increases required to maintain the 2025 levels of service and present the 2026 budget to council at an upcoming council meeting in line with the 2026 budget timelines. Good with that? Okay. We look forward to the rest of the, what we do.
As do I.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You. Right, we will then ask for motion to rise for committee of the whole. Councilor Dumas, second, Councilor Carries, all in favor? Motion carried. We will go next with the request for decision from the Director of Finance regarding fees and charges amendment bylaw number 2046 for adoption.
Okay, thank you again. So this is to follow up from, I believe, the last council meeting where I had asked for the first, second, and third readings to adjust the solid waste collection fees to align with the increases levied from the RDCK. So I'm just looking for a council decision, I believe, to adopt the change to the fees.
Councilor Baldwin. You making a motion?
Yeah.
Motion that council receive the December 2nd, 2025 request for decision titled 2015-1202 RFD fees and charges amendment bylaw, solid waste fees from the Director of Finance, and that fees and charges amendment bylaw number 2046-2025 be adopted. That's the motion you made.
I jumped ahead, sorry.
Councilor Hopkins,
Too much coffee.
discussion? All in favor?
Mhm.
That bylaw is now adopted.
Thank you.
We'll go on with community services requests for decision from the Director of Community Services regarding airport runway extension grant application.
Thank you. So bringing this back, this was, we've come in past council's approval just to get the engineering done for this project so that we could get an idea of the actual cost. This being the runway extension at the Creston Valley Regional Airport. And so with that, HM Aero has been doing that work for us, the same folks that did our master plan. And it works pretty quick because they know that there's a January 16th deadline for getting an application in to the BC Air Access Program. The BC Air Access Program is one of the only significant funding sources available for airports, rural regional airports like ours. So it's fairly competitive. Very competitive, in fact. Last year, they gave out $6.1 million in grants funding. And, they, this project is supposed to be almost 2.2.
Mhm.
The maximum they'll give is $2 million. So, we're hopeful, cautiously optimistic, I guess, and hopeful. So what we need to apply to this is council's direction to do so, for one. And, as far as the estimate goes, it is more than what we had estimated in our plan. So get the funding. We'd have to go and approach the regional district to figure out how the service will accommodate the increased costs.
So question of staff before motion. I'm curious, if we're successful, how quickly do we have to do that? Like, do we have a year? Do we have 5 years? Are we ready to go? And I'm also just curious, will this require a temporary runway closure in order to do that, and what that impact looks like?
It almost certainly would include some level of interruption to service when it's happening. As to the timeline, I'm not sure what their required timelines are.
Councilor Baldwin.
The HMRO estimate, I didn't see any costing on that. Was that already budgeted for this year too?
No, so it's in their capital plan, like the recommended projects section. So it was identified as I think it was in the 3-year time frame as being needed. And, that's kind of confirmed through that letter from Carson Air. They're taking over a fixed wing services for the ECEHS, and that they're, the bigger the planes get, the shorter the runway gets.
Any other questions? Yeah, I will read out the motion. And the council receives the request for decision dated December 16th, 2025, entitled Airport Runway Extension Grant Application from the Director of Community Services. The council directs staff to submit an application to the British Columbia Air Access Program, requesting funding for runway 15-33 extension project estimated at $2,168,950. And further, the council directs staff to provide overall grant management if the application is successful. Mover, Mr. Lewis, second, Councilor Iser, discussion. All in favor? Motion is carried, and the report is clear on what some of the risks are here. And one of the risks, of course, being the accessibility of air ambulance if they go with a larger craft. So I think it's really important in our community that we hopefully get the grant, and then the benefits of an extended runway go far beyond that. So we have a bunch of recommendations from Committee of the Whole from the December 2nd regular council meeting for adoption. The first is that, the recommendation that numbers 1 to 3 from that meeting be adopted as follows. Number 1, that the presentation by Ms. Liddy Sorensen Lawrence of Alliant Consulting Group regarding the 2025 Town of Creston Citizen Satisfaction Study be received. Number 2 is that council receives the December 2nd, 2025 council direction request titled Library Loop Trail Closure from the Director of Community Services for information. The council directs staff to close Library Loop Trail during the development of 1501 Cedar Street. And further, that council directs staff to present a report to council outlining options for the permanent relocation of the Library Loop Trail at an upcoming regular council meeting. And recommendation number 3, that the report titled Municipal ERP System dated December 2nd, 2025, and the business case for the Municipal ERP System Replacement 2025 from the Chief Administrative Officer be received. And further, that council directs staff to include the municipal ERP upgrade project in the 2026 to 2030 financial plan for deliberation during the budget process. Having said all that, I need to move. Councillor Holland, second Councillor Baldwin, discussion. All in favor? They're all carried. We have some correspondence here, with action recommended. The first one is Municipal Insurance Association of BC and the City of Parkville, both regarding Bill M 216-2025, Professional Reliance Act. And the motion associated with this correspondence is that correspondence from the Municipal Insurance Association of BC and the City of Parkville, both regarding that provincial bill I mentioned, Professional Reliance Act, be received. And it's the end further that we, I guess, are here to debate. I know that we have sent our opposition already to this bill in our correspondence, and I'm not sure if we need to do more than that, but up to council. Having heard the silence in this room, I think it was.
I would say that like the following item from View Royal, kind of is the more logical step at this point, a more logical topic. So I think we can just leave it for without a further that on that item.
Okay, so we will then, if you would like to move that the correspondence that would be received.
I'll do that.
Okay, second. Councillor Houghton, discussion, all in favor? Motion is carried. The second associated motion is that correspondence from the town of View Royal regarding the exploration of a coordinated judicial review of provincial housing legislation, including bills 44, 47, 13, 15, and M 216 be received. And further, that I guess they'd be requesting our support in requesting that. And so I guess my question to staff, it's how much do those bills affect us here in Creston?
I think, well, certainly they've had, the Bill 44 was, it was a big one. You know, I think it's, you know, whether those changes are good or bad or a matter of opinion. I think that the latest one there, the 216, is certainly kind of stretching. So probably members bill. Yeah, it'll certainly erode our ability to do some of the work we do. The other ones I don't have much comment on.
So the answer to that would be that we also support the request for judicial review. Like,
Just one comment, because all the work, as our Director of Community Service said, all the work for those bills have been done, with the exception of the Housing Supply Act, which we're not on their naughty list, but one day you could be told, and that's one of the frustrating things for the communities that have been, is that you'll be told how many houses you do have to deliver them. And so, you know, that's the only one that out of the list, besides the other Professional Reliance Act, like that one there is something that's just gonna be hanging over our head, and I'm not entirely sure why the province wants to tell us how many houses it has to be built in our community, and that they'll take over your zoning and all other stuff. Like, I find it unlikely, but it's still, it seems like a slight overreach by the province to just mandate that.
Councillor Houghton.
If we are endorsing this judicial review, are we expected to cover part of those legal fees, or
Yeah.
what are the legal fees for that? Where it's come from?
That would be correct, wouldn't it, Mike?
I would suspect if you wanted to join a judicial review, that there would be some cost sharing of the legal expense.
It does say that.
And it depends, a judicial review could have a very wide variety of expense depending on the how it's presented and what your intended goal is. If it's reading a piece of legislation to say is, you know, from the way we read it, is the province responsible for this or that, and you know, that's a fairly, that could cost you $20,000. What they're basically asking here is basically, without saying it, they're actually asking for almost court intervention to what the province is doing. And that's much different. That could be, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars to prepare a case to go in front of the courts to say,
we think the province, who we exist under, because they allow us to exist by legislation, but we think they're exerting their legislation in an unlawful or a non-constitutional way, or however they want to present it, so.
That's it.
I couldn't tell you how much it would cost, but if, I'm assuming they're sending out a letter to get some, sponsors to kind of share that with you, I guess.
Councillor Hopwood.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I'm curious if UBCM is
Mhm.
gonna jump on board and if this should be a UBCM issue and move forward through them rather than us. This way.
Councillor Baldwin.
For me, the whole tone of it was political. And I was concerned about that because if we say government, we want you guys to act quickly and decisively on this, and they act quickly and decisively on it, then get complaints that they didn't consult enough, but they acted quickly and decisively. I don't really see I personally wouldn't want to be on the side of suing them for that or of taking them to court over that. It's picking on M216. I mean, that's a fairly focused thing, and it's something that everybody can kind of go, well, maybe you should have clarified on this, but the others were we're expecting to act decisively, and there's only so much consultation you can do before they get criticized for consulting too long. So that was my concern about this. Was it seemed like a political criticism, and I personally didn't want to personally have it as the town. I don't think we have enough justification to complain about it. I mean, there have been no real impacts that we haven't been able to deal with, and even M216 isn't huge. So if we have to get up and just try and say, well, here's why we're spending more money, taxpayers' money, to argue this point, we sound kind of petty, and it really, really doesn't affect us. So anyway, that was my thing. So I just really wanted to get to that because I thought that we would not be in a good place if we joined them.
Any other comments? I think we all know that many municipalities are writing letters in opposition of Bill M216. So they'll hear that message loud and clear. And I like your approach, Councillor Houghton, where this should perhaps go through a resolution at UBCM because it does affect all communities. And if it affects all communities, it should be debated there for it to be passed at UBCM. And so I think that we will receive this for correspondence with everybody's agreement and just keep it at that for the time being. Because again, there's much correspondence going back on the proposed bill that's before them now. So good with that? Okay, so just need the motion that it be received. Councillor Baldwin, second, Councillor Arias, all in favor? Motion is carried. Next is member of parliament for Vancouver East regarding provincial bills C233, the No More Loopholes Act. And the information again is before us. I could see the concern here. It's a private member's bill that's actually going to the House, introduced in the House of Commons. So it's written here as provincial bill C233, but I think it's actually support for the federal bill, not the provincial bill.
Federal.
That's it will be introduced by Jenny Kwan, and so she would just like support for it. And again, there's a well-written document that accompanies this on what the concerns are. So what I'll do is at first I'll read the motion, and if we get that motion moved, well, then we'll have a discussion on the motion. And the motion is that correspondence from the member of parliament for Vancouver East regarding, I'll just call it Bill C233, the No More Loopholes Act, be received. And then if we have that motion, we can add to it then further if necessary. So. Okay.
I'll second it.
Moved by Councillor Houghton, seconded by Councillor Dumas. So we have that, and then I will open discussion then on that motion.
When it comes, my opinion is when it comes to number 3 and number 4, I feel like I'm not comfortable making a decision as a council on these topics. I don't have enough information in front of me. So I would need to be asking staff for more information to help me make a decision how we move forward with these. I see it as if an individual counselor wants to write and support or not support these issues, then I'm good with that. But I personally don't have enough information to be able to say, hey, let's do this. So I would just like to receive this for information, and same with number 4, but we can get there when we get there.
I agree.
You guys,
We're in agreement there?
it's
It's a
the same
hefty-
thing, and also, we're a very small voice, I don't think our position on some of these things, that the tanker ban and stuff like that, that is a political or a provincial issue. That, you know, we can respond to our MLAs, or in the case of the previous one, our MP.
Yeah, and like for number 4, when we're talking about the tanker ban, I do believe, pipeline and the potential to do all this, it has to go through an enormous consultation process. And I think this is putting the cart before the horse somewhat. Also, areas.
Yeah, I mean, I personally feel, these are quite important issues. And I think that as I will be responding to them individually, but I do wonder when it comes to, issues such as this, when they're federal, where our stance is and what we can do as a municipality. So, well, I personally feel quite strongly about them.
Right, that's,
And I will be taking that stance, but I'm unsure kind of how to address this as a municipal.
I think, the one from Jenny Kwan, I think it would have much more strength, as a request to MLAs for their support to this, rather than councils.
yeah,
But again, we're all welcome to write our own
exactly.
letters of support or opposition of these things. So having said that, if we'd like to move, have both of those as correspondence to be received, that's kind of what the motion is on the floor.
You have one motion on the floor now, number 3.
Yeah.
Number 3.
Okay, well, we'll deal with number 3 first. The motion is on the floor and has been seconded, so all in favor of that motion, just to have it received.
Yeah.
That motion is carried. Similar to number 3, the motion is that the correspondence from Sierra Club BC, Creston Council defend the North Coast tanker ban, the pipeline be received. Okay, moved by Councillor Airy, second by Councillor Baldwin. Discussion, all in favor? Motion carried. So we'll move on then to the province of BC referral request on a community institutional application, Creston Valley Disc Golf Association. And that correspondence from Front Counter BC regarding a community institutional application for the Creston Valley Disc Golf Association for Crown Land to develop a year-round 18-hole disc golf course being received. And I think that was it all that was on this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so a response is optional.
Yeah.
It's going.
Where it's going.
Yeah, when you go towards, when you turn past the Arrow Creek Bridge, you're on the Arrow Creek East. And before the road split up, there is a piece of crown land there with the driveway that approaches it. They used to assemble log homes there, so that someone had a lease there. So it's a large piece of land, very accessible to the community, very conducive to this type of activity. And through the regional district, they've been asking for support for quite some time on this. And what slowed the process down is just the fact that Front Counter BC is very busy, so they take their applications one at a time as they go. This has been in the queue for a long time.
2 years, and
Yeah,
that's what they told me, it'll take 2 years.
Yeah,
yeah, I think, and so,
Just to move the paper.
yeah,
Yeah.
it'll take 1 month to set up,
but I would think that this
If
one,
a couple of weeks.
this is just correspondence, but if they ask for a letter of support, I would be happy to provide it if council would. agree with me.
I would like to support it.
I think we all would. It's, as pointed out in the information, we're one of the only communities that does not have a disc golf course of any size there. And this is really a great location, and it would bring people to our community for competitions and tournaments. So we'll leave it at to be received for now, but if they start to request more, we'd be happy to address that. So all in favor? Motion is carried.
I'm gonna move in second.
Wait, let's back up. Motion to Councillor All in second, Councillor Houghton. Now in favor. Motion is carried. And request received for information, the correspondence from UBCM regarding the second Community Works Fund payment for 2025-2026 under the Canada Community Building Fund Program be received. Motion to Councillor Baldwin, second Councillor Holland, discussion. Councillor Houghton.
Yeah, I'm just, refresh my memory, staff, how we used this last year. And will it just sit in budget for 2026 for planning for next year? Yes.
Yeah, Mike has an answer for you.
Good news, you've spent it forever and a day. It's formally called gas tax. It's
Yeah.
been funding your road maintenance and your road renewal programs, generally speaking.
Okay.
And so, I mean, council certainly at any given budget deliberations can change that, but basically, that has been what's been funding your road renewal programs.
Thank you.
We put it on there just like, as,
Yeah.
as your correspondence.
Coming.
We're always happy to receive that money.
Well, let the community know as well.
All in favor of the motion? That motion is carried. You have the acting mayor schedule before you. We can now open it up to the gallery for question period. Any questions, Jessica?
No.
Any questions, Al? We're going to recess and move to a closed meeting, but before we do that, we want to wish you both the best of the season, Merry Christmas, and enjoy some time off over the break, and we'll come back in January all refreshed and ready to go like we will be.
You're gonna be
Doing a
busy
hell of a
next
job, hell of a job.
Next week, then you can, or I guess this week, you're in the midst of it. Yeah.
Camp date tomorrow.
Thanks for your regular attendance here.
Aaron's. Streaming you.